So, hi everybody. How are you? Let me switch the screen here so that you can all see me. Hey, hi. My name's Michelle Umlauf. How are you? Well, I'm excited to have you here today. I've been on the go for since the beginning of the year, and I'm glad to be able to sit at home for a little while and catch up on some things. So you might notice that my eye is drifting a little bit. I decided that I want to stand up for this today, so I have my whole studio here set up a little differently. So just bear with me as I get used to this new arrangement. So, if you've not been to UFO Friday before, I want to thank you for joining me. My name is Michelle Umlauf, and I'm a national sewing educator. I've been teaching professionally for the past 15 years, and I have so much fun traveling across the country and getting to meet some of you. As a matter of fact, when I was at QuiltCon, I sent out a newsletter and some of my friends came to visit me at QuiltCon, so that was really cool. I enjoyed them taking the time to come see me and get to know me just a little bit better. It was a good time. So yes, I've been to VDTA, which is the Sewing and Vacuum Dealer Trade Association. That was held in Las Vegas. And boy, it was just such a great trip. I'm not into gambling. I did manage to do it one night under the supervision of some of my new friends, and I had a fabulous time. I lost my, what did I put on there? Maybe I put $100. Did I do 100? I can't remember. Maybe I did 50. I can't remember what it was, but I lost my money and I said, I am done. No more. I think it was just 50. So not too bad. Um, and the hotel was great, and the weather was kind of interesting. It poured one night like crazy. So I kind of put a damper on things getting out and about, but it didn't stop me. So I was there to do a presentation to these retailers on social media. And if you know me, you know that I'm not on social media that much. And I know that it's something important that I have to start doing. So if you're interested in starting your presence on social media, just follow me, send me an email message and say, Michelle, I want to join you for this challenge because it's really not that hard. I struggle just like you are. Believe it or not, I'm kind of camera shy. Like I can do this fine. I love lives. But if I do recordings, that's when I freeze up and I trip over my tongue all the time. So if you want to participate in that, just send me an email at michelle@sewingmachineartistry.com. Okay. And then I came home for like 2 days and then I went out to Phoenix to QuiltCon. That was a fun show as well. While I was there, I was working with Clover again, and we always have a good time working together. We make a good team, and people were very excited that Clover was at QuiltCon, and it was a 4-day show. And I did take some pictures while I was there. Next year, mark your calendars for the same time, like mid-February. I think it might be like the 12th through the 14th or something like that, is QuiltCon in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now you talk about a busy show. That place is packed. Last year when I went to Raleigh, there were 10,000 people there on one day under one roof. It was amazing. So a lot of energy there. So today I want to talk to you about t-shirt quilts. That came up last month because we were talking about stabilizers and you all wanted to know a little bit more about t-shirt quilts and how to make them. And I have a little handout for you. If you'd like to download this, you can see it right there. I always get that backwards, but you can download that handout that I made so that it categorizes all the stabilizers, at least in the Sulky collection, and then you can look at your own and kind of figure out how they match up. So you can go to sewingmachineartistry.mykajabi.com, okay, and then /stabilizers, and you can download that. So today we're going to talk about some of the stabilizers that you're going to use to make your t-shirt quilt. And one of those stabilizers is called Soft and Sheer Extra, okay? Soft and Sheer Extra is packaged in purple, which means that it is a permanent stabilizer. It is like the no-show mesh that a lot of people are familiar with. You take a look at it, you can see a little bit of a texture in it. It has a light feel to it, yet on the Soft and Sheer Extra, it has an adhesive side to it. So you'll feel a little bit of bumpiness, and that is the adhesive, the glue. And you have to use a hot iron to apply it, but not too hot. And as I say that, I have to take a look at my iron and probably cool it off, because sometimes I'm like, I don't sew fast, but I iron quick. Anybody relate to that? So let's adjust that, see if maybe I can get that cooled down in the meantime. Okay. And then the other stabilizer that I want to talk to you about today is called Tender Touch. Tender Touch is also a permanent stabilizer, and this one's a little bit unique because this one has a little bit of stretch to it, whereas the Soft and Sheer Extra does not have any stretch to it. So I have never made a t-shirt quilt, okay? I've worked with Sulky since like 2010, so I know my stabilizers. But kind of like you know, I have these treasured t-shirts that I don't want to cut into, right? So if that is you, let's do it. So we're going to test first, okay? And I'm going to switch the camera over to my demo area. I normally like to look at you all to let you know that I'm not missing in action, but we're going to go over to my cutting area. Okay, so here I am at my cutting area. I got my two stabilizers here. Let's take a look at those real quick. So I'm going to pull out the Soft and Sheer Extra. Don't be fooled, this one has a cousin called Soft and Sheer. Okay, the extra means that it has that fusible side to it. So you can kind of see with me just holding it here, it really has no drape to it. It is quite sturdy. And this is considered a medium weight stabilizer. Okay, Tender Touch, on the other hand, is a little bit different. You're going to notice, you'll be able to tell the difference between these two very easily. I need my pair of scissors to open that up. And don't yell at me for using good scissors. I know it hurts you, doesn't it? Ah, it's okay. It's okay. All right, so I'm going to pull this out of the package, and right away you can kind of see how this is real drapey. Okay, the nice thing about the Tender Touch is that it does not change the hand of your fabric because it's so soft. Again, you're going to see one side is nice and smooth, and then the other side is a little bumpy. You can feel that easily with your hands. So whenever you feel that bumpiness, you're going to know that that is when there is some adhesive involved. So I didn't get my most favorite t-shirts today, but I got a couple to test with. And these are a little on the softer side. So I would, I think I could use either of those stabilizers, to be honest. I think that the Soft and Sheer Extra stabilizer, which was the other one that it's more firm, I think this one is better to use on a t-shirt that is very lightweight, that has a lot of, it's been very loved. Okay, we'll put that in that kind of perspective, that it's been nicely worn in. It's probably one of the most comfortable t-shirts in your collection. So this one that I have, we'll just go ahead and put Soft and Sheer on it. I'm feeling like I came over here unprepared. I was busy setting everything up because it has not, I had taken everything out to VDTA. I had to go over here and grab a rotary cutter, and I'm just going to slice this one. Oh no, I just did it, didn't I? I just did it. All right, so you're going to have to decide what size blocks that you want. Okay, so let's see, is there a seam in here? There's a seam right here. So I'm going to take the scissors and I'm going to go ahead and cut across along that seam line, just so that I can open this up. That way the seam won't end up in one of the little squares that I would make. Okay, and then I'm going to cut off some of this as well. I think I can use my rotary cutter for that. Speed it up, make it a little faster. I always tell my students when they take a class from me to be extremely careful with the rotary. I faint with the sign of blood, so sight of blood. So that is a rule in one of my classes. So I always tell them you'll get a speeding ticket if you don't put the blade away. Then that's how I quickly find out who are the nurses in my class. And I'm so thankful for them. All right, so I'm getting there. So our fabric needs to be stabilized because this is a knit. And as you know, knit stretches, right? So we want to use the stabilizer. And the stabilizer is going to say, hey, I know you're a stretchy kind of fabric, but I'm here to make you more more like a regular woven, okay? And that's what the stabilizer is going to do. Plus, it's going to stabilize it so that it doesn't pucker when you go to sew it. So this is actually a really good one to use for that soft and sheer extra stabilizer. Because look, if you can notice how it's curling on me a little bit. All right, so I got that. So I'm going to put things aside. And I'm going to bring my little pressing pad over here. Now, I do not recommend that you press on your cutting area, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing so you can see it. I have a baking stone. Okay, there's a story behind this. It picked up odors, and I didn't like food cooked on it anymore. So a lot of times I will use that as my base. So I'm putting a wool pressing mat on top of that. And then I generally keep this pressing sheet on my small area. And it's always good. This is one of Clover's products. It's called the Design Pro Applique Mat. And it does have 2 layers to it. But that's for another day. Maybe next month we can talk about applique. Lots of people like to do applique. All right, so I just want to get out any little wrinkles here that I can. And try not to distort this, okay? Because you can easily make it shift, if you know what I mean, with the stabilizer. Or before you get the stabilizer put on it. So we're going to get a piece here. One thing I've been trying to overcome is my desire to be so perfect. So I am just going to cut into this without using a ruler. Has anybody made a t-shirt quilt? I'd love to see pictures of it. you can send them in to me at michelle@sewingmachineartistry.com. All right, so I have the little adhesive side right here towards my fingers, and you decide which side you want your fabric this to go. And let me see, I got to double check this before I say this. And I thought this was the case. Knit fabric always curls towards the right side of the fabric. So if it starts to curl with you like that, this was the right side, and then this is the wrong side over here. Don't know that we can really tell much of a difference there, but we'll do it like that. So this stabilizer, you will use a dry iron, and you want to have it on like a medium heat setting, okay? And we always say test, okay? Just test. If your iron is too hot for this stabilizer, it's going to ripple, okay? And then that will not be pretty. You'll be upset. But practice, try some different weight of t-shirts, go to Goodwill and get some, and then try with this stabilizer. Saki sells this stabilizer in the 1 yard package like I had. It's 20 inches by 1 yard, and then I think they have a 8-yard roll. It's 8 inches long by maybe 9 inches, or I'm sorry, 9 yards long, and the other one's 12 inches by maybe that. I can't remember off the top of my head. Then there's a bolt that's 20 inches by 25 yards. I can't remember all of the numbers. All right, so I have that nice and stabilized on there. I can actually like rub my fingers on that, and it's not moving or anything like that. So I just want to show you this. So this is the t-shirt. See how stretchy it is? So it's got a lot of stretch to it, right? That has nothing on it. This is our new improved stabilized t-shirt, and it is not going anywhere. So I'm going to set this one aside, and then I'm going to, well, for comparison purposes, I'll just use this same t-shirt. How's that? Some of you know me, I sometimes don't really practice this in advance, so hey, we're all getting to look at this at the same time, right? It's more fun that way, because if I make a mistake or learn something that surprises me, you all will feel better knowing that it happens to everybody. It happens to me too. Okay, so the thing I want to show you about this stabilizer, this is Tender Touch. We're going to put it on the back of the t-shirt now. So Tender Touch, if you buy it in a roll, it will tend to stay kind of memorize that roll, okay? That's been my biggest challenge with using Tender Touch. And, I really don't use it out of the package like this because I have rolls of it, which is more Tender Touch. But I like this because it's laying nice and flat. And I purposely brought over this other cutting mat for you because this is one of the Sew Tights cutting mats. And these are magnets. And the cutting mat has has a layer of metal in it, so that would hold what I want to work on. So you can hear it pop down. This mat came with 12 different magnets, and I'm just using a few of them. But that's one thing I really liked, is that it came with a lot of magnets. Have you ever bought something and you're like, boy, I wish I had 2 more of that? All right. So I got this down here. This time I will use my rotary cutter and cut that out. I used this cutting mat not too long ago to cut out a pattern. and it worked so nicely. It held it down for me as I cut around it. It was faster. Oops. Okay, so this is Tender Touch Stabilizer. I have it on the back of here. Just touch it, make sure I know which one is which. Okay, so let's see what side this fabric wants to curl to. This is, it's good. It wants to roll up on this side, so this is the right side. I'm going to apply it to the back side. Put the little bumpy side down towards the wrong side. Now it looks like it's curling on this side. Oh well, it looks the same. Alright, so we're going to apply this. And it really shouldn't take as much time for this to adhere to this t-shirt fabric. Yeah, this is a good comparison. I'm glad that I used this one because I think you'll be able to understand the difference in the stabilizer. All right, it is on there. In case you were wondering, this is the stabilizer that you would use for those t-shirts when you want to protect your skin from the rough stitches when you do a machine embroidery. So Tender Touch is the one you would use for that. All right, so here I have both of these in my hand. This is the Soft and Sheer Extra, so you can see how much more supportive it is. And this is the Tender Touch, so it really has not changed the hand of that fabric. And for one more comparison, I'll just get the t-shirt fabric again. I'll cut a little square of this. So that's the original t-shirt fabric, and this is the Soft and Sheer Extra. Okay, so you can see that it has a little bit of drape, but not as much as the original t-shirt. Okay, original t-shirt's right here, and here is the Tender Touch. So a little bit more support, but really soft in comparison. Okay, so there's the two of them. I'm going to come back over to the main screen now, and I'm going to see if I can find any questions in the chat. I'm back here, so I have to look at my screen. Do you ladies over here have any questions in the Zoom area? If you do, put them in the chat. I'll take a look at them. My computer's thinking. Okay, yes. So I see some questions here. Janet said that she made a t-shirt quilt years ago and did not know what to use, so she used a little tricot interfacing. And yes, that stabilizer, the Tender Touch, feels very similar to that. It's stretchy, so it's very lightweight. So I agree with that. I have a memory quilt. I recently quilted a 40-year-old double knit quilt. I used a woven fusible as it had the stretch, but not as much as the knit did. Awesome choice, Heather. Good idea. I'm glad that you thought ahead to do something like that when you made your quilt. Very good. My friend Ann is in Florida, and her mom made a t-shirt quilt for one of our mutual friends several years ago. That's a nice memory, isn't it? She used to do a lot of running, if I remember correctly. The stretch for the Tender Touch. Yes, Lori wants me to show the stretch for the Tender Touch. So let's go back to that camera. Not a problem. I'm a one-woman show, so I'm the camera person and everything. So here's the Tender Touch, It has stretch sideways, which is a lot of stretch, just like fabric. This way it still has a good bit of stretch. And notice how it doesn't want to curl that way. Okay, and it kind of remembered that, but the curl to the right side, but it does not too bad. Like it's not like gonna curl up and stay that way. And then on the bias, I'm sure there's a lot of stretch. Not, it doesn't feel quite as much on the bias. So I hope that helped you, Lori. Let's go back over here and let me look for more questions. All right. Is there a Saki sheet that outlines which stabilizer is best for what type of project? Let me think about that. You can go to Saki's website, which is saki.com, and you can look up these different stabilizers individually, and I know that they will give you information like what you could do with it. Another thing that is on Saki's website is probably under the resources guide, they have a stabilizer tool that could help you for machine embroidery purposes. I haven't really played with that one a whole lot. There's a book that I really like. It's called Sew, Craft, Create, and Embroider Successfully with Saki Stabilizers. And the reason I like that book so much is because the last half of it has kind of like a recipe book. So if you're going to sew a certain fabric that needs to be stabilized, they tell you which stabilizers to use as well as the type of needle that you would want to use. And they also say if you need a topper or if you might need an additional layer of stabilizer on the bottom. Sometimes that's kind of pertinent to machine embroidery, but definitely it's good for a rule of thumb of which stabilizer you would like to use. That's a great question, Sue. And I do still have my sheet that I created, and I'll give you that email address or that website just in case you didn't catch it. I gave my daughter a woven, a little character, sticky, so there is no stretch. So would that work? I gave my daughter a woven sticky. So there is no stretch. Would that work? I'm thinking about that. So I take it that the woven sticky is like a postage stamp, if you will. I have not seen that stabilizer to use that one. The thing that I'm curious to know, maybe it might say on the packaging, is what happens after it's washed. Is it going to stay with it forever, or is it going to gradually come off of the back of that fabric? So Jojo says no, it's not going to come off. Is that correct, Jojo? It's going to stay on there permanently? She said yes. So then, yeah, that sounds like a good solution for that. Perfect. All right. I'm not sure if I can see any comments over in the Facebook area, but I'm going to try. Take a look over there, and then I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and we'll take a look at the comment, or at how it sews. So the comments I'm getting, it says are over in Zoom when I touch the comments. So if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, I will take a look at those questions and reply to you. So don't worry about that. We'll get back to you, okay? So let's jump over to the sewing machine. Trying to find that screen. Trying some different things here. So window, going over to my seams, and we're going to go to the sewing machine. All right, there's the sewing machine. So I have my two little squares, and we're going just to do a top stitch on them. You know what, and you're going to have to excuse me because I have white thread in the bobbin, and black thread up top. And I'm going to sew this upside down. For a second. So a lot of times I tell my students about this insurance policy. My machine has been traveling in my suitcase, so my insurance policy is when you put fabric underneath, and you all have done this before by pulling up your bobbin thread. So I'm just going to pull up the bobbin thread one here. This particular table that I have my machine set up is probably going to shake a little bit, so I apologize for that. Alright, so I got my machine set up for a straight stitch, and we'll just sew right on top of this to see what it's going to look like, how it's going to handle it. Making sure that you all can see that. Alright. She was happy. Alright, so that was the soft and sheer extra. This one is the tender touch. So we'll sew along that one as well. Looks pretty good. So let's go over to the other camera so that you can see that. All right, so this is the soft and sheer extra. Nice stitches there, nice and even. They look good on the back as well. And then the tender touch right here looks good. Looks nice. Neither one of them puckered, so that looks good. So the reason that you would want to put this on the back of your fabric is when you're sewing your blocks together. If you're sewing that t-shirt fabric together, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be wild and crazy. So you're going to, line your t-shirt fabric right sides together, your blocks right sides together, and we'll do that. Let me go over to the other side. Okay. I'm adjusting them here, so we'll get that. Okay. Right sides together. And I have no seam allowance in mine. All right, let's go back over to the other side and take a look at that. Here we go. So I'm going to open that up. Looks great, except for all these little threads that I sewed over. So do you guys trim your threads as you go, or do you trim your threads afterwards? It depends what I'm doing, like how much time I have for me. Okay, I do like to keep track of my threads because of my cat. So I am going to, let's see. I just want to make sure you can see what I'm doing. I will go ahead and I'm going to press these seams, the seam open. And I better cover that because there's some fusible there. And it might not stay so well because this iron isn't as hot as I normally would use. All right, not too bad. So look at that, beautiful, perfect. So from here, you can continue adding different blocks, different colored t-shirts to help you design your quilt. Or you can, if you want to do any other extra stitching on this, this is a great time to do it before you assemble the whole quilt. If you want to add machine embroidery to it, for example, I would do that to each block unless it's something that you want to do like quilting from edge to edge. But this is a great opportunity for you to add that embroidery design. Now with t-shirt fabric, the one thing that you want to do is place a layer of Solvay. It's a very thin, lightweight, wash away stabilizer on top of this fabric before you start to do the embroidery. So we call that a topper. And then perhaps on the back side, if you feel like you need it, you can add a layer of tearaway stabilizer for extra stability. And then once you're finished with the embroidery design, you would tear away the stabilizer on the bottom, the tearaway, and remove the stabilizer from the top. So I hope I inspired you all to give t-shirt quilts a try, because a lot of people ask about them, and I know it's such a hot topic. Like, I have a ton of t-shirts, those Life is Good t-shirts, that I should really chop them up and make a t-shirt quilt, because I'm not going to wear them again. So I hope you all enjoyed that. So let's see if there's any more questions before I end this segment on Facebook and YouTube. I got 4 new messages. Why did you pull up the bobbin thread? That's a good question, Denise. So when I teach beginners, I teach them that as an insurance policy. For one thing, my machine was traveling from here to Phoenix and back recently, and I haven't sewn on it. So for me, that's just a good way for me to know that everything is working properly in it. And I'm trying to instill this as a good habit for my students who are beginners, in case they've switched their feet or they have to remove a jam of some sort. They can easily figure out if their machine's going to sew or not. So that's why I took the time to do that. So you don't need a stretch stitch or a zigzag. No, you do not, because the stabilizer is tricking the knit fabric that it is now a more stable fabric. So that wouldn't be necessary. And you can always test if that's something you want to see, if there's a difference between them. Go ahead and give that a test. Threads sometimes nest when you have interfacing if you don't hold it. Oh, that's good information, Heather. Yep, that's another good point about pulling up your bobbin thread. And Susan says she trims her threads as she goes. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube and you're wondering where all these questions are coming from, I have a group of people behind the scenes in Zoom that join me over there. As I change stitch, I only cut at the end. If I don't do individual ones, I cut the threads. Nice. That was really helpful. Glad that you enjoyed it. Before I moved from Alaska, I rough cut my t-shirts to size. I have enough cut for 4 quilts. Wow! That's great. That's great. You're ready. I would like to cut the squares bigger so you can see the writing on the t-shirts. Yeah, absolutely. If you have the t-shirt, or I'm sorry, the program EQ8, I believe you can probably design your projects in there, your t-shirt quilts. If I have it, I'm going to show it to you. I went to the show. Yeah, I got it. So when I went to the show, EQ8 was at QuiltCon, and I picked up this book right here. So I'll read it to you. Fabric, Panels, and Photos. And I was curious to know about taking my own pictures and uploading them into EQ8 so that I could use that to design my quilts. Okay, so that's called Fabric, Panels, and Photos, and that's by EQ8. I know I've taken a couple classes with EQ8, and they tell you how to do this, but this is the first time that they've come out with a publication like this. And I noticed that it had holes on the sides of this for a binder, and they may be coming out with more supplements like this. So that is really nice. So one of the things that you can do with EQ8 is apparently you can go to the different manufacturer websites, so say Riley Blake or Moda or whoever, and they have pictures of the quilts that you can, or not, I'm sorry, fabric that you can download and then upload into EQ8. And the challenging part about doing that is to make sure that the fabric is coming in at the right size or right ratio. So for instance, if you have like a small motif on the fabric, you want to make sure that it comes in that size and not like super big, like, you know, 3, 4, 5 times larger than what it really is, because that could change your mind on how you want to design your quilt. So that's what this book will help you with. Oh, and I see that there are even free lessons to do that with EQ8. Yeah, they're a great company. And someone said that there's a need to find the repeat pattern and get the inches to have your fabric come out correct. Yes, it sounds good. I've only like heard of it. I haven't tried it. I don't know about you all, but there's so many programs out there that are really like have a purpose, are really beneficial for us to use. But I don't know about you. Sometimes I don't have time to learn the ins and outs of all the programs. So I wanted to let you know that that's okay. If you only know how to turn it on and maybe design a simple quilt block using just colors or something like that, that's great. You don't have to know how to import photos to make your own quilts unless that's something that totally interests you. So you just use those programs where you can and to do what you want to do. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed this segment of UFO Friday. I had a great time sharing this with you. If you have any questions about what you saw, please put them in the comments and I'll go back later and answer them for you. Our next UFO Friday is going to be next month, March 28th. And I'll have to think of a topic. If you have a suggestion, put it into the comments. Right now, I remembered I mentioned applique, so that might be a topic that we can talk about. But otherwise, I want to tell you about what you want to know. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Whoops, 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 whoops. I gotta end the recording yet over here.